Hi everyone, it's Hannah here, also known as Singing Hin, and this is the third week where we look at speech. As I've mentioned earlier this month, it was World Speech Day on the 15th. So we looked at, in the first week, the International Phonetics alphabet and how it works, and the fact that we're looking at sounds rather than written language. Last week we looked at voiced consonants and looked at the fact that when you speak a voiced consonant, you will feel a vibration at the level of the larynx, which is at your Adam's apple level. Never press too hard, that's never a good idea, but just a little bit of firm pressure, enough for you to feel that vibration, and you can identify a voiced consonant from an unvoiced consonant. This week then, we're going to look closer at unvoiced consonants. So think of the consonant sounds f, t, k. Put your hand flat against your larynx and say those sounds again. F, t, k. Notice how, for all there's a sound being made, it's well above this level. They're sounds that are coming from your mouth. There's nothing vibrating at this level here, as opposed to some of the sounds we looked at last week, g, v, d. So let's look at some of these pairing consonant sounds where you have an unvoiced consonant and its counterpart, which is voiced. Now, importantly, before I start, I want to point out that I am sounding the sound of that letter, f or v. I'm not saying f or v, because f is actually the sound f plus a vowel a. So it's very important to make sure that you're not adding a vowel sound to the end of these sounds themselves and isolating that sound. So f, v. So let's look at some pairs. So if we look at the pair F and V, those are the names of the letters that we use in English, by the way, F and V. The sounds those letters make are F and V. So hand flat in front of your larynx, tiny bit of pressure. F, V, F, V. You'll feel no vibration on the F and vibration on the V. Okay, let's take that on a little bit more. Think of farce, vase, farce, vase. Two totally different words with totally different meanings, but actually they're very similar in sound, and it's about whether you use a f sound or a v sound. Try that yourselves for a little bit. Okay, so let's look at another pair that I looked at one half of the pair last week. That is k and g. So again, remember not to add a vowel onto that to make it k and g, because they are all going to vibrate when you do that. So remember, it's k and g. Hand flat over the larynx. K, g, k, g. So again, think about the word curl. Curl, when you curl something. Then think about the word girl. Girl. Again, they might be spelled different, but the actual sounds we're using are exactly the same, and the only difference is whether or not we voice while making that movement of our mouth above the larynx. Curl, girl. The movement is all exactly the same. It's just that sounding between the voiced and the unvoiced. One more example, and then I'm going to move on. Okay, so our last example then is t and d. So think of t for toe and d for dough. Again, toe being the thing on the end of your foot, dough being either something that children play with or the female deer. Doe, a deer, a female deer. There's a song in there. Anyway, so hand flat over your larynx again. T, d, t, d, toe, do, toe, do, d, d. That there is the level of that sounding of the voiced consonant. Okay, so we've had 3 consonant pairs where what you're doing is you're creating the sound from the above the larynx upwards. The movements you're making are exactly the same for both sounds. The difference is whether or not you sound from here, whether or not the consonant is voiced or unvoiced. Let's move on to a last point for this week. So then, think about that game where you whisper a sentence to somebody who then whispers it to the next person, to the next person, to the next person, and by 14 reiterations, it comes back to you as a completely different sentence with a completely different meaning. How does that happen? If you think about saying something, anything, let's use for me, I'll use my name, but you speak your name, unless you really like Hannah Wiggins. So, if I say the name Hannah Wiggins, and I'll say it and speak it how I normally would. Hannah Wiggins. Hannah Wiggins. I can feel the vibration as I go through some of those vowel sounds. The h, as we mentioned before, I'm not feeling that vibration at larynx level because that's just airflow further up my mouth, as it were. But I'm certainly feeling vibration on the other sounds. Hannah Wiggins. Now, let's whisper that. Whisper your own name, or mine if you really want to. Hannah Wiggins. Hannah Wiggins. Now, you know what I'm saying because you know my name by now, and Hannah's a reasonably common name nowadays, and Wiggins isn't that uncommon. Think of Bradley, cousin Bradley. But actually what I was saying, rather than Wiggins, was Wickins or Wickins sound, because I wasn't able to voice anything, so it was Wickins. And that's a very different sound, and that would be Wickins. You can't really draw it because the vowels aren't being made. It's all about the consonants that are working in there. You're not really hearing a vowel because there's no vowel sound in there. So you're sort of creating a word with much less proof of what that word should be. Now, while that's fine for something in context, if I said something totally random, the quick brown fox ran over the lazy dog. You probably understood that, but if it was something even more random, it's very likely that you wouldn't pick up every word because it's hard to fill in the blanks, which means when it gets to the next person, they've got to fill in further blanks, and that is how things change. My point being, it's very easy to misinterpret something if it isn't clearly spoken, whether it's a voiced consonant or an unvoiced consonant, to make it clear to your listener what's going on. We're going to spend next week looking more at how to do that. Thanks for watching. See you next time.